You're listening to the Values and Leadership Podcast, where business leaders share their stories of purposeful impact and success.
Hello, and welcome to the Values and Leadership Podcast, the podcast for innovative leaders who want to apply new ways of doing things in work and deploy their talents and time to earn their legacy every day. I am your host, Ahmed Arif. This episode is the production of CorpoCure, a values based leadership development advisory firm that unleashes possibilities for leaders in elevating their business and its people to their next best stage and have a purposeful impact in business and in life. In Choice One Engineering, before you became employee owned, was your business model the same like other corporate, yet that you are focusing more into profit? Then you change your mind later, or you were from the beginning like that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So Choice One was started in 1994, and the founders, when they began Choice One, started it with that intention of focusing more on the relationships and enjoyment and fulfillment in the job versus the bottom line number versus profit and financials. The belief was you operate business in what they consider the right way, and focusing on the right things, the profit and the financials would follow. And so we've that's been kind of a belief from the beginning, and we've continued to feel that, continued to follow that belief, and we've always been employee owned, though we revised that structure in 2015 and made it much more of an inclusive employee ownership structure than what it previously was.
Great, great. Because I was reading one interesting article about you, and it was mentioned that you turned down $1 million contract with a city of Ohio with a civil engineering firm, partly because your employees would have lost control over their work. So it seems a very interesting reason because of the loss of control of overwork. So can you please explain more about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So we were presented, really approached by a city in Ohio that asked. They were trying to redevelop, if you will, their city, and part of the goals, the strategic goals for the city, were to bring professional services firms into the city, and so they identified engineering as one of those professional services they'd be interested in through a mutual connection. We were kind of recommended as a good firm. A client of ours that we've worked with was also working with the city, and he had shared, hey, if you're looking for a company that does things right and that's going to grow, go talk to Choice One. And so we had not worked with this city previously, and our first contact, our first connection was really around that conversation about, hey, we've got strategic goals of growth within the city. I've heard that you as a company, Choice One, have strategic goals of growth. Maybe these will match up. And we spent probably a year trying to understand the opportunity, get to know each other. It fit within our geographic growth footprint, so it really was attractive from the standpoint of, it was going to be just on the outskirts of where we were currently working, so it was going to grow our footprint in a relatively new market area for us. The community itself does quite a bit of work, so the contract with them was going to be pretty significant, but we saw it as a great gateway into the surrounding communities as well. The further we got into the conversation with them, the more we realized that the way that they like to operate and the way that we like to operate were just a little different. There were things about the way that we like to provide our employees control over their work and autonomy about what they're doing and how they lead projects, that this community didn't value some of those same principles. And so we looked at it and said, financially, this is a great investment. It get us into, it's going to be a pretty low cost investment on our part with a very high reward on return contracts. but it's really going to get us into a realm where our employees are not, we did not feel our employees would enjoy that working relationship in the way that we set out to make sure that our employees can enjoy their jobs and feel fulfilled in that. So we got honestly, we had worked through contracts. We got basically to the point where we were getting ready to sign. Both sides were getting ready to sign, and it just kept rubbing at us the wrong ways. And it's just, this doesn't feel right. Like I just, it feels like we're doing this for the money and not for alignment with our purpose and vision as an organization. And so we pulled back and we had the conversation with the community of, hey, this just isn't right for us at this point, and here's why. It doesn't mean that we, don't want to pursue this again in the future if things would change, but um, it just doesn't fit the way we like to do business.
Mm.
So we were pretty wide eyed and excited about the opportunity, and we thought it would really lead to some good growth opportunities for us and for our employees. But the more we dug into it, and the more we peeled back the layers and got away from the financial side of it, the more we couldn't make it make sense from a business standpoint.
This is really interesting. Your answer for the first question was is really inspiring for me. But why is that important for you? Now you are prioritizing the employee's autonomy. You are prioritizing your company values. You are prioritizing your purpose, your company purpose over money, which is not that prevalent in the business world. So why this is important to you to prioritize values and purpose over money?
Uh, well, I'll go back to part of it is that's been part of our culture from the founding. So everybody that's been hired here has been hired to try to enhance our culture. Do our values, do our individual values align with the company values? And we spend a lot of time talking about our culture and enhancing the culture at Choice One, uh, in company meetings and one-to-one meetings with employees, and making sure that is priority. So we've all kind of been brought up within the company, knowing that that's what was important. But as I look at it, you know, there's a couple things that are unique, maybe not necessarily unique in our situation, but with our type of employees, in our workforce, we're fortunate enough that our employees make a decent salary. They're not living paycheck to paycheck where the financial their personal financial situation is much more um, reliant on what they bring home from work. Our employees are able to live comfortably on their salaries. So that takes one of the pressures of needing to chase the financial away whenever you're not trying to make sure, we're not paying our employees minimum wage. So whenever we're not trying to make sure our employees can, put food on their table tonight, that's less important to chase the financials. But ultimately, it comes back to a higher purpose for us as individuals. You know, I don't believe that any of us were put on this earth to make money, for the sole purpose of making money. Now, there's a lot of good that can come from making money, when used in the right way, but we believe that we were here to make connections, to share our knowledge, to learn from other people, um, to do things that provide us personal fulfillment. And so we look at it as you spend a lot of your life either at work or thinking about work. And we want to align that personal fulfillment with company fulfillment. And our belief is when we can do that, the other things will follow. The profit will follow. The growth will follow. Our employees lead our growth. Our company, when we look at strategic growth, we're relying heavily on our employees telling us where do they want to go. That an employee that comes into to Choice One today, we really want them to have personal growth plans that in 5 years they want to be doing something different or better or more efficiently than they are today. And we're going to make sure we give them the resources and align those resources to allow them to do that, versus us bringing an employee in and say, this is where Choice One's going to be in 5 years. I hope you can mold yourself into that structure. We go the other way around, and we mold the corporate structure around the collective individuals structure, growth structures.
Hmm, amazing. You touch the point. You touch base a lot on a lot of interesting points. I will take them one by one. So you mentioned that your employees are earning decent salaries. So should I understand from that that you are giving your employees higher than the industry average? Let's say.
No, that's actually a great question. So we are a financially transparent organization. The only information that we don't share with our employees are individual salaries. However, we share the philosophy with all of our employees that we set all of our base salaries and base wages at 50% of the national average for that role and responsibility.
Mm,
So every year we review salary surveys from the industry, and we'll compare our employees to the data in that survey range. Sometimes it's years experience, sometimes it's roles, day-to-day roles and responsibilities. And we want them to be paid on average anyone else within the country would get paid for that position. We do that for a couple of reasons. One, we really want to facilitate a collaborative environment here. So we've really flattened our organization structure. We want to take away any thought that somebody might have that I want to hold my knowledge, my expertise into myself to make myself look like a superstar, so that either I get that promotion or I get paid more than somebody else. No, our goal here is if you know how to do something really well, the way for you to make more money is to share that with everyone else so we can all do it really well
mm,
and be a better company. Um, and so that's part of the reason behind our philosophy on setting base wages at the national average. The other reason for it is from a professional services firm, salaries are by far our highest expense. Um, and if we can keep our expense low, we with our financial transparency, we do 100% profit sharing. So in years when things are good, our bonus structure allows our employees to be, the goal is for them to be in the 75 to 90 percentile of total compensation uh, from those salary surveys from comparable positions in different firms and different, across the country. And when times aren't good, the goal is we don't want to be laying anybody off. Everybody that steps into the foot at Choice One as an employee, whether they're here one day or have been here since the beginning for 26 and a half years now, is valuable to Choice One. There isn't anybody that's less valuable than someone else. That's our mindset. So we don't want to be laying someone off just because, hey, a pandemic happened and none of us knew that was coming.
good.
So we're trying to control our expenses on the front end so that we don't need to get to that point of needing to tap somebody on the shoulder and say, hey, sorry, the year just hasn't gone the way we were hoping it was going to. We're going to need to let you go. And we make up for that, if you will, through the bonus structure and say when the years are good, yeah, you're going to maybe not be getting paid as much as your college, your friend from college you graduated with is working somewhere else on a base salary structure. But by the time that we factor in the bonuses, you're going to be getting paid in that 90 percentile across the nation. So you're going to be getting paid higher than almost anybody else that you know.
This is a nice point to elaborate from your side, and the amazing thing that others as well they are in the same line with you. So in some years, if there is no bonus, they will get little, but in other years they will be compensated and they will reach the 90 percentile, and this will be fulfilling as well for them. But there is a compensating factor which you mentioned, which is the higher purpose that you agreed with them to make connections and to share knowledge and to bring personal fulfillment with company fulfillment. And I can hear in what you are saying that you united between the purpose of the company, the purpose of the employees, with the needs, the human needs, because connections, learning and development, sharing information, personal fulfillment, these are all human needs. So nobody can debate about this kind of higher purpose, which is tied to our needs. So I think this is why everyone is accepting whatever the financial reward that's going to happen in high or low years. But there's something that is meaningful for the people to be attached to the company, to to give their best to the company. So I like this very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know, we like to be continuous learners here at Choice One, and several years ago, and I'm going to go back probably 10 years. We came across the book Drive by Daniel Pink, and that really resonated with us, where he discussed purpose, mastery, and autonomy. Um, and we kind of latched onto that and said, if we can provide that here for our employees, yeah, we need to pay them fairly, and hopefully we pay them very handsomely. The years go well and the bonus structure's there. But if we can pay them fairly, that's not what most people are after. They're willing to come work for us for $2,000 less a year if we can provide them that purpose, mastery, and autonomy. um, if we're not looking after our employees in that way, and we don't care about them being able to achieve those things in their life, then yeah, we would need to go out and we need to pay them more. We would need to encourage them in some other way to come work for Choice One, which, like I said, just increases our expenses and comes straight off of the profit. And so we've we felt like that really resonated with our culture, here at Choice One, and our purpose to really make sure that we can provide that for our employees, and it's been very successful for us.
Great. I like when you mentioned that you included autonomy in the employee package. So the package includes salary, bonus, and autonomy. So it's a whole package. So that's why everybody is accepting that, and that fits well in your answer for the question of why did you turn down the city of Ohio? Because now autonomy is part of the package, so you cannot accept anything against that. I mean,
Right. Yep.
great, great. Something interesting as well I came across is that your company or yeah, your company one choice one, you are allowing even part-time employees to own shares in your company, and this is really interesting part. How come you think about it? Yani, why did you think about it, and how did you apply it?
Yeah, great question. So I'm going to bring us back to 2014. That was the year that we really made some transformation in our structure here at Choice One. We spent quite a bit of the year 20 calendar year 2014 developing our financial transparency program, but then also developing our new ownership structure. And at the time, the former president, which was one of the founders, he took on the role of the financial transparency. He was more involved in the finances, understood that better, and that was honestly going to be a more daunting task. He took the role of that on, and I worked with him, but that was his main objective. And he looked at me and said, Matt, we've identified you as the next president of Choice One, and we feel like that's going to be in 2021. So we were on a long transition plan there, but he was getting me more and more involved in the business. So he looked at me and said, "This new ownership structure is going to affect you and the future of Choice One more than it'll affect me. I really think that you should take the lead of this." And I'm incredibly grateful for him for doing that, because it forced me to think about what kind of company do I want to lead? What do I want Choice One to look like when I take over and as we move into the future? And I kept I kept going back to our purpose. Provide fulfilling lives for a lifetime is our purpose here at Choice One. So we don't mention anything about engineering services or surveying services or landscape architecture services, any of the actual technical services we provide. That's not part of the purpose of the company. I kept going back to, how do I make sure that our employees can have that fulfilling life for a lifetime? One of the things we keyed in on was, we said we want to create this culture of people who think, act, and feel like owners. So I'm wrestling with this new ownership structure, in my mind, and trying to work through it. And I keep going back to the purpose and this culture statement of creating company people who think, act, feel like owners. And it it kept going back to me is, how can I say that we're going to provide this purpose? How can I say that we're going to provide this culture if we don't actually allow people to be owners of Choice One? And So that's where, to me, it became important that we open that employee ownership structure up. We make it very objective, very clear for employees how they become owners. And as I was thinking about that, I thought, yeah, I wouldn't feel good about myself and good about honestly feeling we were achieving our purpose if we didn't include all employees. So just because someone is here part time, that's more of the company's decision than that employee's decision. We have certain roles that we're just not a big enough company yet that requires full time responsibilities. And so our graphic designer, for example, is a part-time position right now. That's not Sammy's fault that that's part-time. That's Choice One's decision that we don't have enough workload for her to be here full-time. And so for me to look at her and say, you're not going to be able to get as much of a fulfilling life out of Choice One as the person you sit next to, just because of where we're at in our company growth and what we have for you to do, I couldn't feel good about that. And so I needed to say, if we're really going to try to achieve this purpose, it needs to include everybody. And if we're going to have this culture, it needs to include everybody. There can't be people that we kind of push to the corner or say, well, yeah, this is our culture, but not for you. So, that would, in my mind, encourage them to not participate in the culture. And if you're not participating in the culture, you're not helping it enhance. And if it's not enhancing, it's eroding. Is our belief. And so it was really important to me that they had to have access to that ownership structure. So when we came up with this ownership structure, we set it up as a part-time employee, you can own 6 shares. As a full-time employee, you can own 10 shares, and as a licensed surveyor or engineer within the company, you can own 20 shares. There's another tier of shares there. That is to make sure that we maintain 50% ownership of licensed engineers and surveyors as part of the corporate structure. That was a requirement. So we needed to make sure that those people own more shares to ensure that 50% total ownership. We tried to create the ownership structure that would be entirely inclusive, would allow everyone here to be fulfilled, to feel like they were an owner, to participate in the culture. But we also wanted to acknowledge from the financial reward side of the ownership and from the financial risk side of the ownership, we felt it was not fair to bring everybody in at the same level of ownership. So if you're here for 2 days a week as a part-time, it's not fair to ask you to put the same amount of financial risk into the company as someone who's here 5 days a week and has more chance to impact what's happening. So that was part of the reason for the yes, part-time has ownership, but they're at a different level of ownership than full-time employees.
Great. You said great things now. Even when you think about the part time, you think you don't want to burden them with financial risks. So really, this is very considerate from your side and the management side. And in the beginning of the answering this question, you mentioned that you were given the opportunity by your other partner, that he involved you in the ownership structure and the financial literacy, and this was for you like a personal development a personal development opportunity, which you have enjoyed since that time, because it is something outside of your span of control and outside of your boundaries. So this is a growth personal thing for you as well. Just remaining thing to understand, the 50% ownership that you mentioned, do you mean that the ownership of the company, 50% is for the employees and 50% to the owners? Did I get that correctly?
No, thank you for following up on that, so I could clarify. In the state of Ohio, to be a professional engineering and surveying firm, they require that 50% of the shares be owned by licensed engineers or surveyors, so that you don't have and I'm speculating on the reasoning behind that, but my understanding, my belief is, so that you don't have one person who is a licensed engineer hires 100 people and tries to provide engineering services um, within the under the professional realm or cloak of this of engineering, but really there's only one person that has the skills and training in that.
Mm.
So that's the 100% of our company is owned by employees. As president, I actually only have the capability of owning. I have 90. I can own 90 shares, which is a little less than 20% of the company,
Mm.
and that was part of the structure I had set up. I didn't want to own 51%. I didn't want to own.
Mm.
Really didn't want to own 50%. I wanted to make it so that if I was not leading the direction of the company in the way that our employees wanted it, I wanted it to be easy for them to vote me out of this position.
Mm.
Um, it's Matt Hoying has personal dreams and personal goals, and I have my personal opinion of where Choice One can go and where I want it to go. But if my personal vision leads us in a direction that the other 50, currently the other 56 of us don't want to go, I'm not the right president for Choice One.
Mm.
And I wanted them to be able to relatively easily get enough owners together to be able to vote me out of this position. So I felt like, 20, why 20%? I don't know. It just, that felt like a comfortable number for me that said, that's going to, I won't be able to take me and my right-hand man and outvote the rest of the ownership. That's what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to make it so that as long as I had one or two other people on my side, who cares about the other 50 some, they'll follow us. That wasn't that didn't that's not our purpose. That doesn't fulfill our vision and our mission and our culture here. So I wanted it to be that, hey, if the majority of the owners, the number of people, not the majority of shares, if the majority of the number of people here didn't like the direction Matt was leading Choice One, I wanted them to be able to correct that.
Mm.
And so that's kind of high level how our ownership structure was set up. I do have the ability, and I do own the most number of shares of any one individual, but it's capped at 90 shares, which right now is, I think, about a little more than 18% of the company.
Great. So it's more of like you are acting like a democratic leader. You are allowing everybody to be there, to have their voice, to have their kind of intervention in decisions as well. Not to be followers, but to be leaders. So you are breeding leaders by not only by giving them authority, but by not only authority in decision making, but authority in directing the company vision as well, as you mentioned. So this is great. So the whole, I mean, you have partners. You mentioned you have partners. So the partners total is around maybe more than 50 or less than 50.
Uh, Currently, we have 31 of our 57 employees are owners. Um,
Mm.
of the 26 that are not, there are 7 that would be eligible under our plan. So
Mm.
with our plan, you have to be an employee of Choice One for 3 full calendar years
Mhm.
um, before you can buy into the company. So there are um, we are a fairly young company. We hire a lot of straight out of college and university employees. So the vast majority of those people that aren't owners have not been here for 3 years or longer yet.
Is there any other eligibility conditions?
Yeah. So the 3-year tenure is one, and then we have identified some ownership characteristics, some personal characteristics we want those employees to have before they become owners. Um, One of them is a risk tolerance. We don't want ownership to be a cash flow thing. We don't want them to invest purely for the financial investment in it. Where, hey, this year it looks like Choice One value's up. Let's sell our shares because next year we think it might be down, and we'll rebuy them. We don't want
Mm.
that. So
Mm.
so we've identified some personal characteristics. Humble. We want them to be humble people. We want them to be hungry. We want them to be smart. They've got to value our core values as an organization, um, and we ask them to let us know of their intention to become ownership through a short essay that highlights those characteristics and why those are important to them. Um, our goal with the 3 year time, the tenure was, if you're an employee here at Choice One in 3 years, you have those characteristics.
Mm.
Um, if not, we have worked very hard with you on a development plan and have identified for you, with you as an individual that, hey, these are the characteristics to be an owner, but they're also the characteristics to be an employee.
Mm.
Being an owner is entirely your choice. It's a financial investment. Some people choose, they want to take their extra money and put it towards their church or do other things with it. We're not here to tell them where to spend their money, right?
Mm.
But so that's why we've said, we really just try to identify what kind of characteristics make the best employees for Choice One, and we want to make sure our owners exemplify all those characteristics. And so we meet twice a year and create development plans with our employees. And if there's any employees that we feel, hey, maybe you're not, as driven and as hungry as we'd like you to be, let's see if we can create a development plan around that. And we give time for them to work at it. Sometimes they, that conversation was all they needed and they can kick it up. Sometimes it takes a little while. So we felt 3 years was enough time, one, for them to understand, was Choice One what they thought Choice One was? Do they like Choice One? Do they see themselves at Choice One long term? And it gives us a chance to say, hey, was was Sammy who we thought she was, and is she going to enhance our culture long term? And if not, we can work through development plans or help them find a position somewhere else that will be more fulfilling for them. Because what we found is that if you don't exemplify those characteristics that enhance our culture at Choice One, you're eventually not going to be happy here.
Mm.
And why work someplace that you're not going to be happy and fulfilled?
Mm.
That we talked about it a little earlier. The paycheck's one thing, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is you find a way to be happy and fulfilled. So when you do leave and you are off the clock, so to speak, you can be happy and fulfilled in your personal life, and you're not bringing the stress, the distaste, the frustration of your job in your personal lives. We want you to be able to go home and be the best mother, father, brother, sister, husband, wife, friend that you can be, and not have the the drag of a unfulfilling job bring you down outside of work as well.
Great, great. I really like what you are saying, and this pops a question that was not planned from the beginning, but I will merge it with this one. So I read as well that you are one of the Forbes small 500 companies. There is like a small prize for the small companies for the Forbes,
Yep.
and you are one of those companies that joined this list. And the factors for including your company was community involvement, commitment to staff, and industry excellence. We have spoken a lot about commitment to staff, and you mentioned a lot about that. Industry excellence, maybe we did not touch yet upon, and the community involvement. So based on this criteria and all of what you said, the scorecard of the employees, how do you design the scorecard so that you can ensure that you are maintaining the community involvement, commitment to staff, and industry excellence?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So that goes back to again, we start everything with our purpose and vision as a company, and how are we going to achieve that fulfilling life for a lifetime? We spend a lot of time in our interview process with potential employees, understanding what fulfillment means for them. What does a fulfilling life look like for them, so that we can understand, is that something we're going to be able to help provide for you here? Related to that is helping them understand what our culture is at Choice One. Our culture here is being a member of the communities that we work in. It's not, our clients are not transactional. Our clients are friends. We want it to be to the point where we spend as much time with our clients out of the office as we do in the office. We've had people that have played on baseball teams with clients. We've had people that have gone on fishing trips with clients. Those are the kind of relationships we want to build. And when you're that committed to that relationship, being involved in that community and seeing what's best for that community kind of comes natural to our employees. And we've taken we used to have a charitable contribution fund that we would participate in our community with. And that where that got spent used to be determined based on one or two people here, the management team at Choice One. And we've taken that and we've put that entirely into the hands of the employees. And so we want you to affect the organizations and the communities that are important to you, because if they're important to you, they're important to us at Choice One. So we've given dollars. We give dollars to our employees to donate. We give hours to our employees to donate. Paid hours off work to donate their time and their talents and to organizations and communities that are important to them. So we look at it as, again, we're not here to provide engineering and surveying services. That's part of what we do, but we're here for that fulfillment for ourselves, for our clients, and our communities. And the best way to do that oftentimes isn't engineering and surveying. Sometimes that's being a friend. Sometimes that's helping out. Cleaning up parks. Whatever the case may be. That's what we want to do. We want to make our communities better places for people to live. And that's how we feel we can achieve that fulfilling lives for a lifetime for people outside of the office of Choice One, outside of the walls of Choice One. That is our goals. We want to provide that fulfilling life for our employees. We also want to provide fulfilling lives for everyone that we can impact outside of our walls. So we've talked about how our purpose doesn't mention engineering and surveying. That's not the most important thing we do here. However, it also is, that's the service that we get paid for. And
Sure.
From the industry standpoint, there's a certain requirement that the quality's got to be there, or no one's going to hire you. You've got to understand what you're doing, or no one's going to hire you. And I think what the industry has done well with recently is understanding that there's more to what a vendor can provide that community than just the service itself. And so we've taken that on and really tried to take the relational approach with our clients and our projects and say, okay, you may have asked us to do this, but let's think bigger picture. Is this what is going to be best for the public that's going to be using that road, that's going to be driving through that intersection, that's going to be drinking the water from this water system, whatever the case may be? We understand that this is your immediate goal and that's what you've been asked to solve, but let's collectively look at this. Let's take a step back. Let's look at it from 30,000 feet and understand, is that the real issue or is there something else? We feel that we take that approach, and we've actually talked ourselves out of jobs before. We've said, we'd love to do this for you and we'd love to have a signed contract, but we really don't feel like this is what's best for the community at the moment. Through that conversation with the community, with the client, helping really understand what the problem they're trying to solve is, sometimes has resulted in, you know what, you're right, that's step 3 or 4. So let's come back to that in a couple of years, but let's address steps 1 and 2 now, and then work forward to this. So that has helped us stay relevant in the industry. And again, having all of our employees understand that that's what's most important, is not doing the best quality civil engineering set of plans. It's doing the best quality project. It's doing the best quality thing for the public. all of our employees understand that that's the conversation that we need to be having with our clients. And if that means that we need to push a project off a couple of years, that's what that means. And we, we'd love to have that revenue, to feed the company and hopefully trickle down into some profit. But that would just be chasing the dollars. That would just be doing engineering transactionally. And we want to do engineering relationally. We want to do engineering for the fulfillment of everyone involved.
I like when you mentioned that you are allowing the team members and to donate their talent, their time, and their money as well. And you are for the industry excellence, you are making this relational approach with the clients, and you are expanding the conversation to include the community best. Great. So now the final thing, final question. I know we have extended our time, but I think it's a very enriching and fulfilling conversation. So this is my last question. Now, employee ownership, it's not a popular idea. It's not a popular. People يعني meet it with the skepticism over its applicability, practicality, losing control, because people they fear that they are going to lose control over their dream, because company owners, they feel their company is their dream and this is their own. So if they are allowing employee ownership, this may make them lose their dream. So it's kind of psychological thing. So in your conversation, first, how did you go through out of that? You told me at the beginning, because you are prioritizing the fulfillment. But if someone, some other owner who's skeptical about that, how do you go in conversation with them, and how the conversation goes like that?
Yeah, great point. And this reminds me to bring up something I probably should have mentioned at the beginning. We're big believers in doing what's right and what aligns with our purpose and our culture. And that's how we define what's right here at Choice One. But what we do at Choice One very well may not be right for anyone else. We don't believe, we believe in adapting, not adopting. So, taking a philosophy and saying, I like this piece of it and I think it can fit in our culture, but that piece that's not us and that's not going to work. So with that in mind, I'll speak of our employee ownership structure because it works within our culture in our organization, to do it this way. And so some of the conversations I've had with employees that wanted to become owners that weren't real sure, maybe they weren't bought into the philosophy yet, or they just didn't understand it full enough. We have separated ownership and management at Choice One. And so the decision making ability or authority that owners have on direction of the company is really really focused mostly on electing the board of directors. And the board of directors elects the president of the company, and the day-to-day, the decisions, strategic decisions of the company happen through the president, through my role. Now, that's how the bylaws are written. How it actually works out is much more what I'd say democratic, is much more of, hey, we're all owners, whether we actually have bought in or not. We're all owners of Choice One here. We spend a lot of time clarifying our purpose, vision, mission, our strategic plan, our strategic goals, and we expect any employee here to be able to make a decision on behalf of the company. Not everything runs through me. I personally would not enjoy that. I'm glad that people are empowered and given the authority to make decisions on behalf of the company on their own. And there are times that they made decisions that I've questioned or I've felt, maybe that wasn't best. And the cool thing about that is it gives us a chance to clarify. I feel like that's more on me, a mistake on my fault, because I didn't clearly define what our purpose is, or maybe what our vision is, or whatever decision they may have made that I feel went against something. It was more on me because I didn't clarify that well enough for them to understand it to the same level that I do, and not on them for making a quote unquote wrong decision. But for us, to help our employees understand the role of ownership, the role of management at Choice One, and how those two are separated was important because in the former structure where we were not financially transparent, the owners were the only people who saw the financial documents. And the owners sat around a table once a month and discussed management decisions. And so we came from a structure where that was the case. If you were an owner, you got a say in those management decisions. To now, the structure is if you were an owner, you don't have any more say than someone who's not an owner. And that was important to us because of what I mentioned before. Ownership is your choice. It's not something that is determined based on, hey, we think you're a key employee. We really like the way you think about things. We want you to be an owner. Um, you could be the most strategic thinking person at Choice One, but rather invest your money, rather spend your money supporting other causes than investing in Choice One. And we still want you on a day-to-day basis acting the exact same way and making decisions the same. So that's part of it for us is separating that ownership versus management. Um, and why I kind of go back to, I wanted to make sure that if my management decisions and my direction of Choice One isn't right for everyone else, that's why it was important that they be able to relatively easily get enough people together to vote me out of this position. Um, so I don't feel like as president of the company, owning a little less than 20% of the company, I don't feel like I have lost any control of Choice One. In fact, it's actually allowed me to focus in the areas that I enjoy to focus in the most. I'm I am more of a visionary and less of an operations person. So now I don't need to worry and put that stress, if you will, on myself to make sure that we're going in a strategic direction, but we're also operationally going in that direction. I can take the people who love the operations side and say, hey, this is not me, this is you. I want you to make sure that operationally we're growing and developing the way that we want to. So it allows people to get involved in the organization in the way that they are most interested in, that their skills and their talents best lend themselves to help Choice One become a better company versus I don't view it as me losing control. If I was trying to control all of that, Choice One would not be anywhere close to what it was today. Um, and that started with some reflection and some honesty with myself about where my own skills are and where my own lack of skills and where my own faults are. Is I just I'm not that operations guy, and I needed to be willing to say that to myself and own up to that to the 57 other people here to say I can't lead this part of the company. I need someone else's leadership here. And you don't want me to lead this part of the company. So that's personally and organizationally, that's worked for us because of where we are as a group and all of us being involved in the best interest of Choice One and how much time and effort we put into clarifying that purpose, vision, strategic goals, strategic direction. I don't have any doubts that every single person here is going to make the best decision that they know how to make on behalf of the company. Like I said, sometimes those aren't the same decisions I would make. I want to be clear about that, but they're close enough. They're close enough that there's never been a time where I've had to say that is so completely not the way we do things at Choice One. How did you ever come to that? It's normally been, that's interesting. You went that way. I can kind of see how you got there. That's not how I would have went there. So let's talk about it. And let's make sure you and I both have the same definition of opportunity through learning, which is one of our core values. So like I say, gives us that chance to clarify it even a little bit more.
Amazing, amazing. Wow. This is not an episode. This is a master class, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate that, but I have had I've had the benefit of learning from a lot of great people. I've had, and as I mentioned, continuous learning is important here, and so I love to listen to podcasts. I love to listen to books and read books and try to adapt things from those books and I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for the culture that we have here and the people that we have here that understand everyone's got a role and everyone has certain abilities and talents. And, we've got to trust Matt to be our visionary, and I've got to trust, Mitch to be our operations guy, and I've got to trust Sammy to be our graphics person. And it takes everybody on board, everybody here to be on board with that philosophy, because as soon as one person starts to question it, that spreads throughout the organization. So I've been very fortunate to be able to share the good that the collective 57 of us have done. And it's, I wouldn't, Matt Hoying would not be able to start a company and run a company like Choice One. Matt Hoying is able to be a part of a company like Choice One, and that's why I like to share our story, because it's our story, and I believe that other organizations can do that too, because people are good, and when you focus on hiring people that have a collective goal in mind and want to enhance the culture, I believe that everybody can get to a spot where they're focusing on the things that are important to them, hiring people that focus on those same things. And you know what? I'm not here to say that chasing financials isn't maybe the right thing to do for some people, but just make sure that everyone is on board with that. Otherwise, I think you get in an organization where there's some riff and there's some distrust, and that's where I've been fortunate that the founding group at Choice One started out from day one, making sure that they hired based on a fit to our culture and alignment to our purpose and vision. And we've continued to do that. And that's allowed us to grow in the direction that we've wanted to.
Wow, it's amazing. I really like when you mentioned that you said you would like to be the visionary guy, and you are not the operational guy, and you have to give control to others, and you have to give decision making for operational thing for others, and this requires honesty and reflection from your side, which is very courageous of you to do, and and you are understanding for others people talent and skills, and you believe that people are good, and all what they need is just to be around the right purpose and the right thing in their lives, and they will give it their best. So this is very courageous from you, and it has been beneficial as well. You have been working this way for years, and you are reaping benefits. And people started to acknowledge you through the Forbes small companies. So I'm really grateful for you for this precious minutes. It was for me. It was a great experience. I learned a lot, and definitely. I would love to do something extra with you later after this episode. But really, thank you for your time, Matt. Really, thank you very
And
much.
no, I appreciate it, and really, what I was able to find out. Very impressed with what you're doing in providing an opportunity and an outlet for this for people to share, because that's how I'm going to continue to learn, is to hear from others that are willing to share. And so what you're doing is just as important in this piece as any of the rest of us.
Yes, yeah, you actually nailed something inside of me, because I didn't find يعني a lot of good stories about good things that's happening. And this was one of my intention, to bring good things to life, and people can listen to it, can know it, can hear about it, and this is really important. I think this part is missing to an extent. In corporate they are not revealing everything that's happening inside, which is very, I found what you are doing is great. It's huge. I did not expect it. I read some articles here and there, but I didn't expect this kind of richness and depth, and the effort you are doing, all of you, the 57 employees, and all of the fulfillment things. This was new to me, And I was really amazed by that. And I'm really thankful and grateful for you for joining me, Matt.
Well, thank you, and I look forward to us continuing some conversation in ways that we may be able to help each other in the future.
Great, great. Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank